Minneapolis, I need y'all to make some noise. Make some noise. All right, so again, tonight is about justice, community, power, and connection. I need y'all up on your feet as I introduce our next guest to hit the stage, who will be singing the Black National Anthem. I need you up on your feet. Y'all show some love for Thomasia Petrus.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. My name's Thomasina Petrus. 40 years ago, 1986, I found my voice here. I became a singer because of this theater, because of North Side, North High. So I am honored to be able to lead you with a little help. Come on. And you're welcome to sing along. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Oh yeah. Let's sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day, this new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Oh yeah. Let us march on till liberty is won. Oh, let us march on till equity is won. One love. Let us march on till victory is won.
Test. All right. Welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home.
Wait a second, they gotta get my mic on. Okay, here we go. Welcome home, y'all.
Do y'all have any of those friends or chosen family members that are your bootleg Beyonce? That's ours down there.
Thank you. Welcome home. It's
Welcome
a privilege and a pleasure and an honor in every other adjective possible to describe how it feels to be here in your presence tonight. So I just want to say before we begin to give yourselves a round of applause for being here with us tonight.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I bring you greetings from the great state of Florida. I just looked at my phone. I think y'all are at about 5 degrees here. Maybe feels like below zero. It's warming up. That's the Florida in it. You can thank me later for that. But in all seriousness, I feel real humbled right now to be in shared space with you, to hopefully this evening have some breakthroughs. If you came into the doors feeling a little bit shaky, maybe needing to be propped up on one side or the other, or maybe needing or feeling like you need a word, something to pierce the tenseness of the space, I hope that you find that this evening. Maybe you're here because you are the person to pierce the space. Maybe you're the person that's going to leave us all inspired and feeling like as we leave this shared vicinity that we'll go out there and we'll multiply. But I got to tell you, just coming from one of the 50 states, you all have made us incredibly proud.
Yes, yes, yes.
You made us incredibly proud. I know that the sacrifice has been far too great. And too often, Minnesota, that sacrifice has fallen right here on y'all's shoulders. But I want you to know that by your sacrifice and through your service and by your example, you've really stiffened the spines of many of us all across this country. And you've set an example that as other communities confront these kinds of challenges that are being brought down by the people who are supposed to help us, but find it right now in their spirit to hurt us, and in the cases that we've experienced here, kill us. It's going to take a mighty army, but I'll tell you, we are greater than them every day of the week. We just got to keep at it, all right? So God bless you, and welcome this evening.
Well, I'm going to say this because we didn't say this. We are your hosts of Native Land Pod. I'm Angela Rye. This is Andrew Gillum, and that is Bakari Sellers. We're thrilled to be here with you all, and I want to echo Andrew's sentiments and just tell you all thank you. Thank you all for showing us what courage looks like when fear is trying to overtake you, when terror is trying to overtake you. So we really want to thank you, and this was our offering to you, not to come and make content and go viral, but to come and commune with you the way that we do every single week on Native Land Pod. It is a safe space for us, and we wanted to create that same safety with some of the people that we are admiring the greatest right now. The other thing that was really important to us is that we come and pour back into the community as best we can. So we partnered with an organization, a coalition I started called State of the People, to engage in some mutual aid efforts with the Minnesota Freedom Fund, with the Capri Theater, and so many other partners throughout the city to give back groceries for those of your neighbors that are afraid to go to the grocery store right now, hygiene kits, diapers for the babies, wipes. And we also have, at the end of the program, we'll be presenting micro grants to 7 small business winners. So we wanted to come with an offering because we dare not take another thing from such a beautiful city. So thank you all for having us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And at this time, our Beyonce, Bakari, has a panel that he's hosting. So we're going to allow
Before y'all slide out, though, I wanted to kind of save this for last because I wanted to introduce you all to some people that are here. Just a point of personal privilege. I know that you were talking about it, but the pain that we feel sometimes, we find ourselves so interconnected. And I was speaking to Eddie Rye earlier. Shout out to Mr. Rye, who is Papa Rye, who is Angela's father. We all kind of come from this background of civil rights, of movement. And on the front row with us today is the family of Ricky Cobb. Please stand up. His dad, his twin brother, his mama, I didn't see you back there. This family has been holding it together. Many of you all know Ricky Cobb was gunned down right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota by Minnesota State Police not long ago. And so I wanted them to come in this space and feel the warmth because as we go from Emmett Till to Michael Brown, as we go from Henry Smith and Samuel Hammond and Delano Middleton, all the way to Medgar Evers, as we think about all of those lives that were lost, all of those weddings not had, those graduations not had, all of those individuals who weren't able to grow up and raise a family, all of that pain that we feel in our community, it's important that we wrap our arms around each other, particularly on a night like tonight. And so we're gonna have a lot of fun, but I wanted you to share this space, give them a round of applause, and then we're gonna get started with the first panel.
We also want to acknowledge the folks who are streaming live. Native Land Pod family, we appreciate you. This is about Minneapolis. We're wrapping our arms around Minneapolis, but we also are wrapping our arms around you. So let's get started, Bakari.
Welcome home. Welcome home.
Thank you. Welcome home. Give them a round of applause because the show can finally start now that they off stage. I was supposed to have some theme music, but they don't even worry about it. Bye. Okay, so as we get started, we got a couple of people I wanted to bring on because we have some national figures who play a large looming role. You know who they are. They are organizers. The first person I wanted to bring on was Elizabeth Booker Houston, who you may have seen, come on Elizabeth, who is a viral content creator who is actually joining us tomorrow as a special guest host of Native Land Podcast. I don't know. They ain't really give me them instructions. That seat is perfect. Oh, and Georgia Ford. How many of you all know Georgia Ford from right here? Lord, they cheering louder for you. I said, so Miss. Well, Elizabeth, you should have brought some more fans. I asked Georgia, I said, how do you want me to introduce you? I said, it just says independent journalist. She talking about Emmy Award winning, And then she said, wait a minute, multiple Emmy Award winning. So we want to make sure down south we have this saying, you give people their flowers while they're living, amen? And so Georgia, we want to make sure you give you your flowers, and this crowd loves you, home loves you. Next we have Juan Proaño, come on, Proaño, I have to roll my R, I'm working on it, who is the CEO of LULAC. Now, let me just tell you that I think it's a fascinating time in this country because we are finally starting to see that good people of like minds, singular hearts, are being faced with oppression no matter what they look like. And I think the country's actually witnessing good people being gunned down in the streets. I've oftentimes asked, what would happen in this country if white people were killed in the streets? For me, that was a question. Coming from South Carolina, that was a question that we always asked. For me, it was like, when are we going to see individuals come together? Because that is the only way that we change. And so Juan's presence here, the work that you do for the Hispanic community, the work that you do, because many of us have been singing our praises and our prayers and bowing our knees and praying that our brothers and sisters who may not look like us are not being drug out of their homes in the middle of the night or rounded up like wild animals. And so we pray with you, we're here with you, and we're glad you're here with us tonight, Juan. And so following him, I know he's on an executive committee meeting because the NAACP is the most meetingest organization known to man. Is he out here? Is he ready yet? All right, well, we actually have Derrick Johnson, who's the president and CEO of the NAACP, who will join us shortly. But while he stumbles out here, I wanted to start with you. And actually, Georgia, this is home for you. I wanted to start with you and talk about, this is kind of fascinating to me, because dealing with the case of Ricky Cobb or Philando Castile or George Floyd, one of the things I realize is God sometimes uses some really unassuming messengers. And the other thing I realize is that we keep coming back to this place. Talk to me about how this has taken a toll, the changes you've seen throughout from your bird's eye view in the community, and the resilience you've seen in this community as we sit here today.
Well, Minnesota is ground zero. We've been ground zero. And I think that the rest of the country had this perception of, ain't no black people there.
Yeah, we said that all the time.
Well, you ain't saying it now.
I know, I was like, well, I was wrong.
But so we're ground zero. Prince predicted it. He was probably the only person who said the revolution will start in Minnesota. And people thought he was crazy. But the thing is, what we're experiencing right now in Minnesota should be a code red for America. And as an independent journalist, I live in this, kind of interesting intersection where I'm able to amplify stories mainstream media does not, while also still holding them accountable. And I've been calling them out in this moment because I feel like the principles of journalism, being neutral, being objective, these things have never really served us. But right now, I think they're central to our demise. Mainstream media can no longer be neutral about the dismantling of our democracy, yet still expect to be protected by it. You can't stand by idly and just report the facts of a U.S. citizen having their constitutional rights violated, but then be upset when your journalist is attacked by the police and say, oh, but our First Amendment. No, it doesn't work both ways. Media is not on an island of their own. And so that has been my vantage point in being here in Minnesota, but because I'm from here, these stories are also my stories. The things that are happening in our community also impact my family. They impact my children. And so I don't think any of us really wanted to be ground zero for this long. We're still recovering from what happened after George Floyd, businesses barely getting by. But it is that resilience and that perseverance that even Bovino himself had to acknowledge, that the organizers
you mean
here.
The little man with the big coat?
Yes. He said, oh, those organizers, they're really good. And so that is a testament of who we are, of how we love on one another. And I think essentially why the nation is looking at us right now in this moment to lead in a pathway forward. And I think that we are meeting the moment.
Juan, talk about your organization. Give her a round of applause, for sure. First of all, for some people in this room, this would be an introduction to your organization. For those of us who are somewhat in this space, it's the parallel partner to the NAACP in the Hispanic community. Talk about your organization briefly, but more importantly, talk about the toil that you're seeing weigh on the individuals that you represent. And very succinctly, tell us what we can do in this room to join hands, or what you all can do to join hands with us. How do we bridge that gap? Because I will tell you this, one of the most politically brilliant yet sinister, unholy things that was ever done in American politics was shipping immigrants to sanctuary cities that were predominantly black in places like Chicago, in places like Baltimore, and try to drive a wedge between these communities. How do we bridge that gap?
Well, thank you very much, Bakari. So the organization that I represent is called the League of United Latin American Citizens, or as we refer to it as LULAC. It is the country's oldest Latino civil rights organization, founded in 1929 in Corpus Christi, Texas. And effectively, it was modeled after the NAACP. We have councils, the NAACP has chapters, and we have members just like the NAACP does. And we've been doing the exact same work that the NAACP did in the South, in the Southwest, and in the West. So one of the seminal cases that we've litigated, for example, is Menendez versus Westminster, which was a precursor to Brown v. Board of Education. And so the same fights that we had in Texas to desegregate pools and restaurants and funerals homes and burial sites, we've been doing that for the last 97 years. And as I take into inventory what we're seeing today, sadly, we're going back to that time, and we're having to fight some of those same fights. One of the episodes in our long history has been what they call the Bracero program. And I don't know if the Bracero program was a program that the United States basically had with Mexico, which was a foreign worker exchange program. They allowed Mexicans to come into the United States to do the work that no one else would effectively do. We're talking about 1940s, 1950s, okay? When they were finished with those workers, they effectively deported them back. Over 1 million Mexicans that were here and had been here for almost a decade at that point were effectively shipped back to Mexico with their families, with their US-born children. US citizens were actually caught up in those effective raids. And what we're seeing is effectively this, a new Bracero program. And let me explain what that means. They're trying to take away birthright citizenship. Okay? They're trying to take away birthright citizenship. We sued this administration on the 4 hours after he signed that executive order.
Well, this executive order that Stephen Miller wrote, let's be exactly
that's
clear.
Right. They are redefining effectively what immigration is, taking away temporary protected status, taking away asylum, taking refugee status from folks. Literally, student visas are basically now null and void unless you may want to come from, or a white person from South Africa. They can still get visas.
Yeah,
and
they let all the white farmers in from South Africa.
It's interesting how that happens. So what they're basically trying to do is they're going to try and get as many Mexican American immigrants as they can out, and that's not just Latino immigrants, but if you're from Asia or if you're from Africa, and even if you're from Ukraine or some Eastern European country, then they're going to let us back in with new work visas, with no pathway to citizenship, ever. No birthright citizenship effectively for our children, okay? And we know that they're going to somehow or another find a way to reduce wages for these immigrants that come into this country to work. That is servitude, okay? And we know where that effectively is going to lead, and that's why we're fighting this fight. For me, our work has been so important to make sure that it is in lockstep with the NAACP. I have the privilege to serve on the board of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights with Maya Wiley, because that's kind of sort of how I've always grown up. My family is beautiful It is assimilated into this country like no other. I have a nephew who's got red hair because his mom is Irish. I got 3 nieces and nephews that are Afro-Latino. Like, we are really what the American dream is, and right now we're struggling and fighting for that because our community is in fear. They are at home. They're taking the night shifts.
They're not going to school.
Going out during the day. Their children are missing school.
Yeah.
15,000 children have basically disappeared from Miami-Dade's public schools. It really is incredible. And you've seen the stories of that young man, Liam, who was used as bait to get his father out, and they're both now in Texas, Diddley, Texas, in detention. A 5-year-old boy.
They just shipped out a 6-year-old Venezuelan.
And a 2-year-old girl, Chloe, right, who was also deported, and she's 2, and she's a U.S.-born citizen with her father, and we're trying to basically get her back. And so that's why this is so important for us. That's why the community aspect of it is so important for us, because, you know, this is the fight for our generation, and it will define who we are.
I think one of the most important words he used was our. Our. We have friends, we all know. I mean, I had these same discussions in the barbershop. We talk about a lot. We talk about OnlyFans models, we talk about it a lot. But one of the things we always talk about is there's always that one guy in the barbershop who's like, that ain't my problem. But when you're quiet when they come for them, and then you're quiet when they come for them, and then you're quiet when they come for them, when they come for you, you look around, ain't nobody gonna be there to help you. And so I think our in community is so important, and we have to get back to that. But you gotta promise me one thing now. Now, when I'm out there marching for the death of Ricky Cobb, I need some of y'all out there marching with me too now. Now the crazy part about this, and I gotta tell, that's what I tell my white liberals, I tell my Hispanic friends, my progressives, I'm like, look, now you ain't gonna find no bigger supporter for Planned Parenthood and female reproductive rights than me. But when there's a little black boy that died, you gotta be marching with me too. That's the only way this thing works.
Yes, and so I will be very frank. You know, LULAC historically has made some decisions that it shouldn't have.
Yeah.
1936, they supported calling Latinos white. That was a choice that Latinos actually made as a community. Would we make that same choice now? I don't think so, certainly not under my leadership. And let's be very frank, Latinos can be racist too, right? We know that.
Prejudice, I don't know about racist, but we go down a whole nother path.
Even within our own community. And we have to take our accountability for this past election cycle because Latino men voted for this.
Yeah, that was on y'all. I was gonna mention that.
At the end of the day. And so I'm working to make sure that our folks effectively know what's at stake. And I think clearly now they know what's at stake. And I live in Miami, and it's interesting to see the Latino Republicans that are like, I didn't vote for that. I'm like, yes, you did vote for that.
So listen, one of the baddest women that if you don't know, you need to follow her. Elizabeth is dope, with a capital D. Now, the reason that she is so dope, and I have only admired her from afar. I didn't know anybody. And then Angela was like, we gonna have, I was like, yay. So the reason is because she cuts through the stuff, and she does it in a way where she meets people where they are. So we have different generations in here, right? All right? And you do understand that the way that your mama and daddy and grandparents communicated with people is not the way that's effective today. There are entire generations of young people, young women, who just respond to the way that you talk about politics. And so my question is, from your vantage point, particularly in this content creation, are we seeing the apathy that people say is there? Are people thirsting for change? And how can we utilize that as a springboard to kind of catapult and bringing communities together and doing some of the good work that you talk about doing?
Well, I think...
It's coming.
Oh, it'll come on. My bad. I think that everybody's fed up, and that's what a lot of people have in common, regardless of where they sit generationally, right? So I'm a millennial, and I know you were referring to the fact that I have a slick mouth because I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, so I cuss a lot.
Are you from Memphis? What high school did you go to?
I went to Bartlett. I hated it.
Where is that?
It's in the suburbs.
That ain't Memphis.
I know. We moved out there when I was a teenager. It was terrible.
My mama helped desegregate Hamilton High School.
My daddy went to Hamilton.
There you go.
Yes, that's where I grew up. So I grew up around the corner from Hamilton High School, actually. Okay. But yeah, so I have a slick mouth. I cuss a lot. And I think it's funny because you were like, oh, you know, different generations. But the funny thing is, whenever I get my openers, because I also do stand-up comedy, whenever I do shows and I have my people that open for me, I love when they come in the green room and they're like, your audience old as hell, Elizabeth. And I'm like, yeah, because I talk like a king of comedy, and that's an older generation, a king or a queen of comedy. And so it does span generations. So I see that with my content and how it resonates with people. It's really not just younger people. It's not just older people. It's not just folks in the middle. It's everybody. Like, it's a wide range. And when it comes to addressing the apathy, people just need some direction, and they need it to make sense. We spent so long with everybody talking down to folks and over folks, and I say this as a lawyer, I hate it, because the reason why we make everything so complicated is so we can gatekeep it and charge $300 an hour. But it affects everybody. Everybody should know the law. Everybody can understand the law, and I just don't operate from that vantage point that just because you don't have a law degree or a bachelor's degree or even a high school diploma that you can't understand it. You can come to my page and learn something, and you can figure it out. I had a whole group of people understanding substantive due process when everything happened with abortion rights being overturned. If you don't know what that is, go find my page, because you'll learn it in about 5 minutes. And it's possible to teach people these things. And so when we cut through that whole knowledge gap and all this elitist behavior that we have with the way knowledge is gatekept, and just share it with everybody in a way that actually makes sense, and you're not just trying to talk over everybody's heads, then people will be willing to be more active. And that's what I see every day on my page. My favorite comments are not from people who've been following me forever. It's people who say, I didn't understand or care about the law or politics until I found your page. And that always makes me happy.
One of the other, she said substantive due process. Substantive due, that's 3 words. I'm from South Carolina. We still count on our fingers and toes. But one of the other words that we're going to get real cozy with, not tonight, but in Minnesota, because I think we just got to teach people this and have this fight of the 2 words, qualified immunity. It's something I've been dealing with for a very long period of time in cases around the country. I don't know, is Derrick coming out here? This is a live pod, so I get to yell in the back. I guess he's going to join another panel. So listen. We have 2 mics up here, and I'm gonna have time for 2 questions. I got rules about questions. Y'all listening? Questions have question marks. I know y'all got little written speeches. Get them in the next panel. Ask them questions, okay? And then I don't know where we got away with teaching people there's no such thing as a dumb question. I always tell people that there is a such thing as a dumb question.
You're smarter when we answer it.
There you go. Okay.
You know.
I hear you.
know.
So make sure we have time for 2 questions. Bring them up. If you have a question, there's a microphone right here. 2 questions. Just line up those 2 people. Before, I wanted like a rapid response from you guys. Understanding where we are. It's fascinating to me that in 2016, everybody said we would be here. In 2024, running for election, everybody said we would be here, and it seems like nobody listened. If there is one consequential event, moment, or thing we could do from this point forward, what would that consequential moment, event, or thing be to help create the change we want to see?
Depoliticize humanity.
What does that mean?
It means our humanity has become political.
Oh, depoliticize
humanity.
Like humanity
Yes.
as a... Oh, not like people or human beings, but like...
Correct. I think, especially like from a media vantage point, I think, again, going back to why I feel like we need media reform, everything is we got to tell both sides. Well, what's the other side of the truth? A lie. That's problematic, right? It's very, and it becomes divisive because then it's everything is us and them and us, me against you. And some stories are nuanced. Some stories have 7, 8, 9 sides, not just 2. And so I think right now we're living at a time where everything is left, right, Republican, Democratic. And I'll just be honest, for me, and I think I hear this a lot from people I talk to in community, is not everybody sees themselves represented in those identities. And the deeper you get into Black and brown communities, people don't really see themselves represented in that. And so America has to get to a place where we depoliticize humanity. Everything is not political. Some things, like we just witnessed a woman be brutally shot in the face, a US citizen.
Yeah.
And then our politicians are trying to force feed us that this is about immigration. And then we just saw another US citizen be shot down.
Yeah.
And it's not, this isn't immigration, but it has become political because our elected officials are not seeing the humanity of these US citizens. And they're giving us all of these different justifications. At the end of the day, if America didn't have such a hard time listening to black women, I think, looking back at the church protests that had everybody, and believe me, I lived in the Deep South and the Bible Belt. I was getting calls, Georgia, what was you doing in the church doing the protest? But if y'all would have just listened to a black woman, Alex Petty might still be here today.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I also think along with that, there's something that I echo a lot with Angela and Andrew, is that many times we get caught in our own silos and we seek out news and opinions that reinforce our own views. And we live in very segregated communities. We just do, particularly in the South. What's the most segregated place in the country? Church on Sunday in the South, right? And oftentimes we don't get out of our silos to hear the opinions of others. And I think in order to give people the benefit of their humanity, which they don't give us, sometimes you have to, I like that depoliticized humanity is bold. Pause real quick, 1 second. Y'all say hello to my good friend Derrick, who just joined us today. I don't know if y'all know this man. Do y'all know this man? Do y'all know him? Derrick Johnson from Mississippi. That's how we pronounce it down south. By way of Detroit, who's here with us today. I got a big question for you. We're not gonna do these questions right here, I'm sorry. I got a big question for you, and then we'll do these rapid responses, because I'm gonna ask you some questions in the back along that line. But Derrick, people oftentimes ask the question, is the NAACP ready for this moment? That's the first question. Is the NAACP necessary? Now, mind you, I say yes to both of them, but you need to be able to answer that for these folks. And also, talk to me about the moment that we're in, because you, as a student of history, can go and talk about since the inception of the NAACP through now. And is this something we've seen before? Is this a new struggle? Is being sick and tired of being sick and tired? Is that something that we just do we have to deal with this every 4 or 5 years? How do we, you may not be able to answer this, but how do we break these chains?
So, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. You know, the question is NAACP ready for this moment? The real question is, are black people ready for this moment? Our institutions are as strong as we populate them and give them strength. And anytime we set our institutions over here and we put us over there, that's a losing proposition. And never in the history of the black community has there been a singular leader, a singular organization, or a singular strategy. The real question for all of us, if we are going to lend our voice to freedom, self-determination, what vehicle are we going to use to get there? And I'm agnostic. You can pick any of the vehicles, but pick one and get off the sideline of criticism.
Amen.
Right? History. We have never seen this before. We've always seen this before at the exact same time. Because this fight is about power, domination, and control, and what we are witnessing is in a democracy where your vote is your currency, they're running out of white people to have enough votes.
Isn't that called the Browning of America that Stephen Miller is deathly afraid of?
In 1909, when we were created, when those Africans who had American citizenship met the year before, who was asked to join those non-whites in a meeting in New York, because they were non-white, because if you was Irish Italian, you was not white. If you was Jewish, you was not white. If you was anything other than Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you was not white, because race is a social construct. And each one of those individuals were not doing this to save black people. They were doing it because their own communities were under attack. But then when LaGuardia gets elected in '34 in New York, who was Italian, and they began to carve up the city of New York and say, these are the Irish districts, and here are the Italian districts. In Harlem, you get the black district, and then World War II happened, and then the WASP class began to run out of white people. Oh, Irish, we're gonna give you a president, you can be white now. Oh, Jews, it's not World War II, we're gonna make you white now. And that process continued. The difference is we can never join the white club. And I'm okay with that. But the white club was frustrated because of the New Deal policies and the shifting of tax policies. And from 1932 up until last year, the Big Ugly Bill, that's been the fight throughout. We've seen this before, and we've never seen it at the exact same time. And so the use of othering to divide and distort, to cover up the tax policy shift, the use of othering to divide and distort, to cover up the Epstein files that still have not been released, the use of divide and distort to try to cover up the fact that white middle America, your pockets have been picked, your farms cannot be harvested, and your jobs, you cannot sell cheap labor because we're not doing those jobs again. That's what this is all about. Mass distraction and distortion. We've never seen this before, and we've seen it before.
So the reason, when anybody asks me, the reason that I have faith in the NAACP is you're only really as good as your membership. That membership looks like us and is very strong, but you're also as good as the leadership that the member elects. You want me to leave Derrick up here for this next panel?
What?
Oh, so anyway, I got some more questions for him, but you know Angela's the boss of the podcast. Everybody know that. But I do want you to do me one big favor. I want you guys to stand up and give a round of applause to these 4 individuals who are on stage with me tonight. Stand up, take your bow. Elizabeth, Georgia, Juan, Derrick, thank you for joining the Native Land Podcast. Next up is Andrew Gillum. And by the way, we are not the same person. I'm really happy that we are both in a room together. You can't top that.
Thank you, Bakari. Thank you. Beyonce. Y'all, we're gonna keep it moving. One, thank you all again for your patience, for being here with us, and your energy level. We're gonna keep this conversation going with a panel of some elected officials, our political leaders. We keep name checking our electeds. And tonight we've had a couple of them agree to join us. And so I'll go through a little bit of an introduction, some questions, and then we'll have this mic right here to my right, your left, where we'll take audience questions. So not to belabor, let's bring our panelists up. We're gonna start with some familiar names you know well. State Senator Zainab Mohammed, give her a round of applause. State Representative Cedrick Frazier. The immediate past and 46th Mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota, my brother from FAMU, Melvin Carter. And another young leader in this state. Y'all have potential on potential on potential. Y'all have a pipeline here in this state of incredible young leaders, and this one is no exception, and that is your Lieutenant Governor, Ms. Peggy Flanagan. And Senator Zainab Mohammed, we introduced you first. You probably were further back there. Y'all give the senator another round of applause, please. So, no, you can't see the audience, but they can see you. Watch your expressions. One, I want to thank each of you, our elected leaders, the folks, whether you are holding political position at this moment in time, once you've established yourself in the community as a leader, people look to you for leadership. And I can only imagine that these last couple of, well, now over a month probably, of this federal occupation, a government force that was sent here supposedly to bring safety and peace. I have to treat it like I treat everything that comes out of the president's mouth. Whatever they say, interpret the opposite. Because instead of peace and safety, we've gotten chaos, we've gotten destruction, and we've gotten death. And Lieutenant Governor, I'm gonna start with you with this question, which is to simply set out the stakes. What has it been like trying to lead during this time, supporting your governor, holding down your position, supporting these electeds around the state, and most importantly, supporting your people? What's the state of mind? How are you all getting through this? And where do you diagnose where you are right now in this fight with the feds?
Well, I would say We're exhausted, but not tired. And as we have watched over the last 8 weeks, but like, let's be real, this surge has started, but ICE has been here for a long time. And so, what we have seen, and I absolutely am eager to hear from my colleagues because they have been on the front lines, but what we have seen is just absolute chaos and fear. And what is being done under the guise of safety, right, couldn't be further from the truth. When there are 2 Minnesotans who have been killed by ICE, when we have 5-year-olds and 2-year-olds who are being detained and brought to Texas, and just the lies that continue to come out of this administration about the individuals who have been killed at their hands, it is outrageous. And so what I have seen over the last several weeks is the best of Minnesota, is folks who are stepping up, who are standing outside of schools and daycares and churches and getting food and mutual aid and responding in a way that I think folks weren't expecting from Minnesota. But we care about each other, we stand up for our neighbors, and this isn't just about the Twin Cities. As we've been traveling across the state, ICE is everywhere, right? We're in Alexandria, they're there. Detroit Lakes, they're there. St. Cloud, they're there. And so this just terror has to stop, and they gotta get out. And I wanna just name something that I think is really, there's a through line here. Individuals who are being detained are being brought to Fort Snelling, which was essentially a concentration camp for Dakota women, children, and elders. And now that's where folks are being, brought to in this moment. And so the through line is that the federal government continues this long cycle, right, of separating families, of detention. And so I would say, again, we are exhausted but not tired, and we'll continue to show up for our neighbors, continue to use nonviolent protest and resistance. And that's what you've seen happen all across the state. And so much of the groundwork that has been laid is because of the good organizing work that has happened over the last several decades in this state. People have relationships, they have trust, right? And we can then just put all that into action.
And excellent, give it a round of applause. It's been pretty obvious that you can't overcome the will and, quite frankly, the sheer might that they put on the ground, overwhelming the law enforcement of the communities here in Minnesota and Minneapolis and the surrounding area, unless you have deep, well-built, trusted, and strong relationships that can carry you through. Senator, the Lieutenant Governor really set the framework by bringing in our Native brothers and sisters in the history of the detention facilities here, to just put it plainly, the racism that guides the policies of this administration. Gentlemen, I'm being generous with this term, but Stephen Miller, the avowed, I think, unapologetic racist that runs these policies in the White House, used the pretext, in part, for coming to Minnesota, the Somali community. As the president says, low IQ, right? Which the man who stated that couldn't be lower in an IQ as far as I'm concerned. But for those of us who have watched from outside, I mean, I've been offended every time I've heard the president speak about Somali Americans. But as a Somali American yourself, and I realize that your jurisdiction and your governance now expands far beyond that, but it'd be haphazard of me not to ask you, how is this reverberating within the Somali community here in the state? the attacks, and what does mutual aid, how is that coming into focus for your community? And are there needs that this group, those who are watching, those of us around the country who are spread out, are there things we can do to be of greater aid and support?
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for being here. Well, first of all, the Somali community here is a large community, but compared to the rest of the community, it's a small community, right? We're 80,000 people, if not less, across the country, less than 200,000 people. We're a fraction of the population of this country. And I think to see some of the most powerful people in this country, whether it's this administration or tech billionaires, and the ways in which that they're using the algorithm to talk about our community has been disheartening. And the one thing I know about Somali people is that we're an incredibly resilient community. I came to this country when I was 9 years old, and I am 28 years old. My community has been here for less than 30 years, but they have made Minnesota their home. They are not everywhere you go, whether you're coming out of the airport, the person who's checking you in or checking you out is a Somali person. Your Uber driver is a Somali person. When you take your mother to a nursing home or it's her final days, the person who's taking care of them is a Somali person. The thing I've learned in the last 5 years from Minnesota since the murder of George Floyd is just how resilient Minnesotans are and how much we're a fabric of this community. So many of the people who are on the ground that are protesting what's happening are also speaking about the frustrations that they're feeling about what people are saying about their Somali neighbors. And what I have seen from my neighbors is, I don't think I've shoveled a day. There's not a single day I've shoveled snow this year. And it's because my neighbors understand the work that I'm doing and they're showing up for each other. We have done massive food drives through a number of schools in our communities. We have seen people raise thousands of dollars. I think I put a GoFundMe on my social media, and by the end of the day, it had raised like $50,000. And so Minnesotans understand that at a time when the federal government, the state government, every system that we know that's supposed to help people is failing, they are looking to each other and they're creating systems. And I just have never seen such a powerful community just across the board. I mean, we are better than the police, we are better than the government. I'm like, these people can do whatever and nobody can do anything better, but we're a resilient community, and at the end of the day, him speaking about Somalis, it just means he's talking about Minnesotans, because that's who we are. That's our community.
I love that. I love that. So Renee Good, Alex Preddy, we should say their names, and lift up their family and their loved ones in their absence right now, in their physical absence. Black bodies have been put on the line quite a bit in this state. In fact, most of us around the nation began paying attention because of the Black lives that have been risked here. Have you, Representative, noticed any bifurcation, any difference in response from the community based off of who the victims are? Or is it true that people are seeing an assault on one as an assault on everybody? I'd love your honest interpretation of that.
No, thank you for that, and thanks for having me out here. I appreciate that, and thanks for the audience for being here tonight during these trying times. I need to say again that I am very proud of the way Minnesota has stood up. We are showing not only the rest of the country, but the world, how you push back when you're looking at tyranny and authoritarianism trying to be forced upon you. So Minnesotans should always give themselves a hand and a round of applause for that. You know, and I've been saying this, and I've been in many rooms since this has been happening here in the state. What I've been saying to most folks is, because you keep showing up, it gives me hope. We may feel helpless, but we're not hopeless, right? We may be tired, but we're not giving up. And what I say also is that they picked the wrong state, right? And I say that because of this reason only, right? There were people killed before they came to the state of Minnesota. ICE agents had killed folks. But we made sure that the rest of the world and the rest of the country knew exactly what was happening here. We made sure we were going to have the receipts in real time to show the rest of the world and the rest of the country what was happening here on the ground in Minnesota. And that happens because of what we've been through in this state. You know, my sister just talked about George Floyd. We built a system of community after what happened to George Floyd, right? And let me say this, what I tell folks all the time, because when we play the politics here, I still hear some of my Republican colleagues talking about we're going to go back to the 80s or the 90s when we were divided and segregated, and we can put out and we can demonize people that didn't look like the folks in the suburbs, right? That didn't look like people in certain communities within those neighborhoods, right? And what I always say to them is like, you're living in a time that doesn't exist anymore, because now our neighbors, they know each other. Our neighbors, their friends, their family, their kids are hanging out, they're having sleepovers, they're doing carpools. They have a connection with their neighbors that they didn't have when we had such segregated communities, that they didn't have in the 70s and the 80s. We have those connections now. And because we have those connections, what we're saying is you're not gonna tell me that my neighbor, that I should hate my neighbor or be fearful of my neighbor, because I know my neighbor. I'm gonna give you this example right here, and I'm gonna stop with it. I'm gonna give you this example. My daughter, I walk her to the bus every morning. That's how I find some peace in this chaotic stuff that's going on. And she's got a friend named Frida that she sits next to every day. And when this president won and they started going to school, she would say, hey, Frida tells me that her family is really scared to go outside. And I said, why is that? She said her family's, they're Mexican, and they're fearful that they're gonna get snatched if they come outside. So they're not going to work anymore. And she doesn't know if she's gonna be able to continue to go to school. Just yesterday, we were on the bus stop, and I said, how's Frida holding up? And she said, well, she told me she's probably gonna have to be homeschooled for the rest of the year, but she may be back next year. She texts her, literally, it's almost real time, broke my heart. She texts my daughter as we're waiting for the bus stop, and the buses are always late and it's cold outside, so you deal with that, right? So she texts my daughter and she says, I'm no longer gonna be riding the bus for the rest of the school year. I believe I'm gonna be at school, I'm gonna be at parent pickup, but I'm no longer gonna be riding the bus. My daughter texts back, what's going on? She says, because of this ICE thing. Broke my heart, breaks my heart to know that this is what our young people have to deal with. They're tearing families apart. They're terrifying young people. But what gives me hope is young people aren't gonna forget about this. They are creating the future resistance to this, right? They are creating the future leaders that are gonna know what not to do when you're making policy. They're creating the future leaders that are gonna know how to absolutely be proactive in taking care of their neighbors and taking care of their community folks and being right there and standing up for them. So no, I don't see a difference in the response. I see our neighbors showing up here day in and day out, just like the way they showed up when George was murdered on the middle of the street in broad daylight. I see them showing up and saying, enough is enough, we're not gonna stand for this. And you know what? We're not gonna have true healing until we have accountability. And we're making sure we have the receipts for that accountability.
That's right. I love that. To the audience, if you have a question, we can begin to form a question line over here as I toss to Mayor Carter. So you see, yesterday, the president appeared to make some sort of, I actually don't know what to call this thing. Some people, the media is running with a pivot or a retreat. The president did an interview 30 minutes before we started here this evening on Fox News, and basically says, not a retreat, he's still committed, so on and so forth, but thinks that the deaths have been unfortunate and some other flowery language. Again, people executing his will on his behalf, but those were his comments. I'm curious how you see this, as whether or not this is a retreat, maybe a retreat from the state of Minnesota to be reincarnated in another city, in another state, someplace else, or does the administration appear to have learned a lesson and we may see a secession here until at least after the midterms?
Learned a lesson? No, I don't. You said it from the beginning. At some point, we have to understand that, you know, what Maya Angelou say, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And at some point, we have to understand that the things that they are doing are a feature of their plan, not a bug of their plan. And y'all made it so inconvenient for them that he had to find a different news cycle. But do I think that the death of two absolute, completely innocent people is gonna change their course? No. And here's why. After George Floyd was murdered, I was on some show and they asked me, what are you going to do differently now that this happened? And I said, nothing. And they said, nothing? I said, well, the most important thing you have to know about the murder of George Floyd is how historically unsurprising it was that my father and his father and his father could tell you about unarmed people being killed at the hands of law enforcement. And so we had to know that this was there. And the point that I was just trying to make is the things that we need to do because this happened, we actually already started doing before this happened in our work because we know that this is a phenomenon. But as my lieutenant governor was talking about the Fort Snelling, I was thinking about the Dred Scott decision, where they brought Dred Scott to Fort Snelling and he sued and he said, hey, I went to Fort Snelling, so I ought to be free. And I'm not a legal scholar, but ultimately what the Supreme Court of our country said, the United States Supreme Court that we look at as the highest level of justice on the planet, the Supreme Court said, we're not even gonna actually answer your question, but what we'll tell you is that a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect in the first place. And so I say all of that to say that, when you place this in a historical arc, I think it would be farcical for us to assume that these two murders, which are often, by the way, the evilness with which they're operating is masking the sheer incompetency with which they're operating. But I don't think that they are suddenly woke up this morning better in terms of competency or better in terms of morality, either one, because of this news cycle.
Hear, hear. Are there any, I'm gonna keep looking over here in case there are questions, and in the absence of them, I know we'll have to wrap soon, but there is.
There are questions. There are questions.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're to you. Yes, please.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to build on what Mayor Carter just said, because I think there is this idea today that somehow because Greg Bovino is leaving, that somehow we're cool, right? And bringing Tom Holman in. And I don't mean to be crude, but I saw a post today that said replacing Greg Bovino with Tom Holman is like pooping your pants and changing your shirt, right? And so I think that it's really important to know that going back to 8 weeks ago is not enough. Going back to 6 months ago is not enough, right? Going back to February of 2025 is not enough, right? ICE has to get out, and it is very clear to me that this has been the plan all along. You have bright red signs in all caps that say mass deportations now behind Donald Trump at rallies, at the Republican National Convention. This was not in the fine print, right? They've been saying what they are going to be doing for a very long time. And so we can take a breath, we can catch our breath today for a moment, but get real that today we've already seen footage of people being violently pulled from vehicles, of folks being detained. So it is not over, right? It's just that Donald Trump knows this is a bad look. And so a little bit of shuffling of the deck chairs is not gonna cut it. They gotta get out, right? And we gotta rip it apart and start over.
That's right. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
Good evening, panel. I have a question, and I also want to make a comment. I do want to refer back to the question about it being a change because of those who are now the murdered victims, right? And I think just coming from Minneapolis, born and raised, there is a change in response. There has been a change in response because not only was Renee good enough, and not only was George Floyd a good enough reason, this has been a white male that has been murdered in broad daylight in America, on American soil. So the response that the nation has took over, and the response even from the NRA has changed. We didn't get that same response with Philando Castile. So there is a difference in the response that we see with not only two white bodies, but it took for a middle-aged white male to be murdered to get the response response across the nation. But that's not my question. My question is to Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. With the extortion letter that we received from Pam Bondi, what would be the response? I've seen the response from Governor Walz, but what is our real response in regards to extortion, which is a crime?
Which finger?
You can
Which
thank Florida
finger?
for that,
Yeah,
by the way.
thank you.
It's a gift from Florida.
Yeah, so I think we can go back to our Secretary of State, right, who is in charge of the voter rolls. And his answer was simply no, right? And no is a complete sentence. And he couldn't even give that information if he wanted to, because it is already illegal, right, to share that information. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because let's be clear, again, going back to the through line. Preventing certain people from being able to vote is the goal, right? And so we have to be really clear. This is already in litigation, right? They have already tried to ask for the voter rolls. They have already tried to ask for the names and identities and sensitive information of our neighbors who utilize public programs, right? Also, no. And so I think our incredible Secretary of State, along with our amazing Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who, by the way, has been the most valuable player, right, for our state, like suing the Trump administration 50 times, that is what this is all about. So no is a complete sentence, and I am grateful for the leadership of those two constitutional officers. But let's be clear, the goal is to try to prevent folks from voting, and we're not gonna let that happen.
You got another?
Hello, panel. I have a question, and it's kind of, I don't want to say loaded, but I hear some of the comments, and we all see the news, but I want to ask, how do we continue to build and trust as a community and a whole as a community without identifying and acknowledging some of the hurt and the pain some of our community has not only been through, that's outside of this ICE situation, but also the things that has happened within certain communities that has affected us as a whole. And as leaders and politicians, it's good to keep a good face, like I understand that. But for us as people to trust you all, it has to be acknowledged. Because it's not just good, and it's not just home all the time, and it's not just these things. There's things that's happened that has affected all of us from individual communities, and we want to welcome us as a whole. I don't necessarily want to, I don't think it's like effective to give like an example, really.
Just in general, if the thing is that in the black community we've confronted X. And
let me, Andrew, I think we know.
Okay, never mind. This is an inside conversation. They know what the example is.
Okay. It's an inside conversation as Minnesota, and I want to say I'm a proud Minnesotan, and I love the fabric that we've created, and I've never appreciated the term Minnesota nice more than ever now. Minnesota nice means that we vibe check each other, and we have culturally acknowledged other people, even when we don't know them deeply. We say hi and we give them a surface level kindness, and I've never appreciated Minnesota nice as much as I do now, and that's extended to everyone here in this room. But I just want to say, as leaders, we have to start to trust. We have to start acknowledging not just the good, but also the things that as humans are problematic that affects other people.
But let's be honest, that definition you just gave of Minnesota nice is a new definition of Minnesota nice.
Absolutely.
Because my grandfather would have said Minnesota nice means they don't call you the N-word, they smile at you while they deny your loan.
Absolutely.
And so what you're talking about is so important, because we're a state, we've always planted our flag. We are a home ownership state, we're an education state, we're a healthy state, we're an employment state, all those things, and all of those things are also the spaces in which we have the worst disparities in the nation. And when you were talking, I was remembering when I first ran for city council 100 years ago, I remember telling a group of folks, I love Minnesota so much, I want some of it in my neighborhood. And so, but let me tell you, like, what they're trying to do, and let me tell you, and the reason they chose the wrong state, What their goal is to do is pit us against each other. And I saw it. We had an action in St. Paul a couple months ago. And we were trying to get ICE out of there. We got them out of there. We were trying to pull our police officers out of there. We got ICE all the way out. They were all the way out. 3 ICE agents turned around and walked right back in the crowd, not to arrest anybody, just to like needle some folks and then walk out. And it went to hell. They're doing that on purpose. They're trying to like figure out how to needle that in between us on purpose. And you're right, sister. We have specific issues in our African American community. But one of the things that I think has pushed Donald Trump to that place, we've been able to hold our discipline. And when we hold our discipline, then the news story isn't about some glasses that got broken or a building that burned down, or isn't. The only thing they can cover is the fact that you murdered this man in the streets, shot him in the back. And so our ability to kind of navigate through this, and let me tell you, I have conversations with people in so many different communities. Well, our community, and all of our communities are unique. And all of our communities are challenged, and all of our communities are different, and we won't be able to hold together. You had the answer in your question. We won't be able to hold together without acknowledging those uniquenesses and the unique pain points that our African American community has, and the unique pain points that our Native community has, and that our Somali community has, and our Jewish community have, and those types of things. And the next level is making sure that we're kind of pulling all of those things together and saying, yes, there's some uniquenesses there, but like we have a common enemy right now who's trying to attack all of us, and our power exists in being able to be in this together.
Nice. We've got 2 minutes remaining, and I wanted to come back to our legislators on accountability. So right now we've got a Justice Department that is really the Injustice Department. Remember the inversion. If it comes from Trump, it's the opposite. This is the Justice Department, not under Pam Bondi. They're doing anything but what is just. My question is on the accountability front, the folks who are the ICE agents, who are masked, and I believe they're masked and don't want their faces shown because they got to create a dissidence between humanity and then what they see as inhumane, which is their behavior towards all the rest of us. What does that look like in an administration where you've got a Justice Department that won't fairly investigate? You've got a president who is likely going to pardon outright every ICE agent federally before he leaves office. And yet our communities have suffered devastating harm. How do we make sure that the individuals who perpetuated and rained down this harm on our communities get the cost of justice that they deserve?
So we've already started that process, and that's a great question. I'm glad you asked before we got off this panel. So we've started that process. County Attorney Mary Moriarty, Attorney General Keith Ellison, who said one of our superstars, they've created portals to collect evidence, to collect information so that we can see what kind of harms are being done, so that we can then vet that information for potential charging. I think County Attorney Mary Moriarty came out today and said she believes they have some sufficient evidence to move forward on the Renee Good matter pretty soon. So we're already in the process of doing that. We've got some legislation that we're crafting to move forward to give people the ability to sue civilly for the harms that's been done by these federal agents. The one thing I think they're gonna have a hard time doing, we've got some really smart people out there that can catch people and identify people with some facial recognition stuff. We're gonna find these folks. And what I've told people is gonna be similar to how maybe like the Nuremberg trial and the J6er. It's gonna be after the fact, but we're gonna find you and we're gonna hold you accountable. And the one thing, for murder, there's no statute of limitation. What I will tell you to the community, and I didn't come here to campaign, but I will tell you to the community, you have to look at the people that are running to be leaders in these offices and positions that will be in a position to try these cases, to charge these cases and hold people accountable, right? Look at how those candidates are moving right now to give you a pretty good idea of what they may or may not do if they're leading those offices. So we're gonna need strong leaders to make sure we carry that out and have the accountability, because like I said, there's not gonna be any healing until we do have accountability.
There it is. Minnesota, y'all have some of the best. You all have some of the best elected officials that I've encountered around the country. Will you give it up again for all 4 of our panelists? Their work, their sacrifice, and their service.
Test. All right, everybody, let's give it up one more time for these outstanding elected officials. Thanks for hanging with us. We have some other amazing folks who I know you all have seen, many of you follow, work with. Before we get to that, I do want to just take a moment to shout out our friends at ActBlue who immediately went into action on Saturday night to ensure that there was a fundraiser page set up for the Minnesota Freedom Fund. You all know the great work that they're doing every single day. We thought it was so important to show you all, for everybody who's at home like, I'm scared to go to Minnesota. That's all right, send your money, because we want to make sure we can bail people out of jail. We want to make sure we can get groceries on tables. We want to make sure we can get grants to small businesses. And our good friend, Eli Darris, who is the executive director of the Minnesota Freedom Fund, is joining us now. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Yes, indeed. Y'all, he loves you because he is supposed to be at home on paternity leave, okay? So he loves y'all. He's here. I also want to recognize the president of the University of Minnesota's Black Student Union. Many of you all know him, and if you don't know him at home, we've seen him go viral recently for some powerful remarks in the face of ICE terrorism. Give it up for Gutu Chinkaso, please. Got fans. Oh, this brother I know very, very well. We became close after I read his New York Times best-selling book, My Grandmother's Hands. And you all know that Resma Minicum is doing the work of the people every single day in Minnesota, making sure that we are able to process the trauma that we experience on a day-to-day basis. And Resma, wherever you want to sit, we thank God for you. Oh, no, it's not last just yet. So, Attorney Leslie Redmond, I want you all to give it up for her, because literally, this would not have happened if it wasn't for Leslie. Leslie brought every single resource. Somebody wasn't calling me back. Leslie was like, sis, I got you. Let me say less. And she was on it. So I just really thank God for you, Leslie. Thank you so much. And it was very important to Leslie that she was on a panel this evening with someone who she loves very dearly. He is a shared sibling to us. He is President Derrick Johnson of the NAACP. He's coming back to join us to chat it up a little bit. All right. So, Resma, I want to start with you. I do, because you know why? Let me tell you why. Because the one thing I know you're going to do is get us straight. We got to heal. Like, right now, people are saying, oh, well, there's no point in being in Minnesota anymore. They're about to withdraw ICE. But now there's all of this destruction, literally death, literally grief. As we sit here right now, Ilhan, our dear sister, was holding a town hall, and a man comes up and sprays some foreign substance on her in her direction. Ilhan is the smallest giant I have ever seen in my life, so she was like, the town hall gonna continue. But I think that it's important for us to understand how we reckon with what's going on. Yeah. And as Dr. King best said, where do we go from here?
Yeah. You know, Dr. King also said another thing. He said that just before he passed, he said, you know, I'm afraid that I've taken my people into a burning house, right? And I want to start there, because a lot of times we start with healing like this, like it's this magical thing, right? And what I want to say is, if in this moment in time where people are being murdered in the streets, that our officials' only caveat is to say we need to be better, they are leading us into a burning building. You get to be angry in this moment. You get to be pissed off in this moment. You get to figure out how you turn towards each other as opposed to on each other. That's what they want us to do. And so when I talk about healing, I'm talking about how do we tend to the things, snatching babies out of people's arms. They're executing people by shooting them in the back and in the chest, and don't care that you're filming it. They're shooting women in the face and then calling them foul names after they do it. They kneel in, and let me say this last piece. This don't sound healing, but it is healing. What I'm talking to you about is healing. It's tending to the things that are showing up and beginning to figure out how you use that as fuel for your liberation. Right? We're not gonna get out of this and return back. Gavin Newsom ain't coming to save us, y'all.
Can you say it again? Because they got mad at me when I went at Gavin.
Gavin Newsom, the current governor of Minnesota, are not coming to save us. Let me just ask this one question. What if what we're seeing right now is the best they got? What if there are no better angels? What if what we are seeing is all they got for us? What does that mean in terms of what we need to do? Right? And that's what I want to talk about when I say healing. So in your question about healing, sis, we have to start. Nobody's coming to save us. The midterms ain't coming to save us. We are being asked right now, who are we going to be in the face of tyranny? That's the healing.
Well, y'all see why we started here. He set the tone, didn't he, Eli? So I want to come to you because freedom is in the name of the fund. And to Resma's point, you know, for years we have toiled with this concept of freedom, but we're lacking in resource, right? So even right now, we're like, what are we going to build? Well, what are we going to build without proper resource? Like, we won't even stay going to Black businesses multiple days a week unless there's a fast. Oh, okay. Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we won't even support each other unless we're required. For many of us. I'm not saying all of us. Too many of us. So what does healing look like? What does freedom look like without resource? And how do you encourage people to give what they have towards a common cause, toward our liberation?
Well, one, we have incredible resources. As the rest of this state and the rest of this nation has bear witness to, even when it seems as though there is lack, they may have looked at Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, and thought that, you know, we were lacking in something, we were weak, we were going to be easy, that, you know, this was going to be a pushover, that they were going to create an example out of us, that they were then going to replicate in other municipalities around the country. What they saw was a people respond robustly with a deep and embedded resource that's inside of us, and that's people power, right? So we are the resource, and as Resma said, no one is coming to save us. We're the help that we've been waiting on. And so people have been able to see the power of people, and I fundamentally believe in the power of people to impact the realities that we want to see around us, to help to create the realities that we want to see around us. We said we were going to get ICE out of here. We said that we were going to melt ICE. We began to see some of the tactics that they use, and so we created counter tactics. They weren't allowing people to be able to peacefully go and get hygiene or go to the grocery store or do whatever. And so what did people decide to do? So we decided to galvanize our own resources and to create alternative ways that people would still be able to get food, still would be able to get provisions, still would be able to get resourced, right? So you know, the top level to the answer of that question is, we the people are the resource. We have absolutely everything that we need to create the reality that we want to see around us, and the rest of the nation was able to bear witness to that. In terms of our giving our resources out, our financial, our emotional, whatever the resource is that we are giving out, I am a firm believer in sowing and reaping, that what we put out, we get back multifold. And what I'm investing now in terms of, I'm supposed to be at home with my family right now, right? I have an 8-day-old daughter, but this is so important to me. The environment that is cultivated is so important to me that I know I have to invest my time, my resources, my intellectual abilities, whatever it is that I got. I know I got to do this because 20 years from now, I want her to inherit a certain type of America, right? And so I'm going to invest in now. I'm going to fight against the powers that be now. I'm going to do whatever needs to be happening now because I have to be fighting for that greater later. And so, those who are having a tough time of deciding how they're going to invest in or what they're going to invest in, I really don't know much to say to them, because to me, the state of the union, the great confirmation, the great fire that we see burning around us, if that's not clear indication enough that we have to get off of our resources and do something, whether that is time, whether that is finance, like whatever it is, I don't have a lot to say to anyone who would sit on the fence in a moment like this. We have to do something, or something is going to happen to us. So I know that's a non-answer, but that's what I have.
It's perfect. I want to take this moment, speaking of resources, I know we have in the audience, I hope they're still here because we meant to acknowledge this earlier, Jazz Hampton, who is an attorney. Are they here somewhere? Yes, right here. Okay. And wanted to, right over here. Okay, yes, I can see in the dark now. Jazz, thank you so much. For those of you who have had interaction with law enforcement and are still confused about what to do, Jazz has an entire app called Turn Signal, and is here to provide other resources to you all so you don't feel like you're alone, because we do have everything we need. So on that, I want to go to you, Gitu, because I think it's important. We are always talking about what young people aren't doing, what young people ought to do. That's right. And I think in rooms like this, what I love to do, I love hearing from young people about what we're not getting right to facilitate the type of future that Eli just talked about. So what do we need to do differently to support young people? Because we're not getting it right, clearly. It ain't on y'all, it's on us. We old. Oh, do y'all that? Okay, well, I'm old. They young people too out here, apparently.
We got some young people in the back, my board members. Shout out y'all. Yeah. Sure, for more of us. First of all, I just want to thank you, Angela, and the rest of the Native Land Pod and the whole crew for reaching out to me. Me being a junior at the University of Minnesota, being younger, 21, and just being in this space with so many amazing people, legislators, just amazing people. I'm trying to say, even President NAACP right here. Yeah. So it's a blessing to be here, truly. Just talking to your point about maybe what people before me can potentially work on. I mean, honestly speaking, we're here because of people before me. So the first thing you have to always acknowledge is the thanks and the gratitude to them, to kind of be here in these spaces to do this. And even being BSU president, we're built on activism, we're built on change, we're built on fighting for what's right and fighting for the needs to create the better future, as you talked about, for people coming in behind us. And that's kind of how I view this as well. As it can be tough as a student. You want to focus on your academics, you want to focus on maybe your future, like an internship or a job. That's what I'm looking for right now. But but at the end of the day, you can't deny what reality is, and what reality is in front of us all within our communities is that ICE is a terroristic organization. They're causing a lot of harm to our people, whether that's old, young, whether that's immigrant or citizen, it doesn't matter what it is, they are causing continuous havoc and terror. And I think the biggest thing is, I don't know if you guys got it wrong before, but one thing I've learned is at least is just organization, I'd say, in a sense. Organization to gather troops, to gather people. I think throughout multiple different areas, multiple different cities, and even within our universities, there's definitely a lot of division, I'd say. Division because of, I don't know, whether it be, race or ethnicity or economic status or whatever it might be, there's still that division. And also that sense of, I know somebody mentioned it earlier, kind of like, I don't really have to worry about it if it's not directly affecting me. And I know that that is not a good mindset to have at all, because when it gets to you, then who's gonna help you, right? You feel me? Yeah, exactly. So I just view that as a sense of organization is key, organization is important. Continuously pushing and relying on young youth, people like me, to step up out of our shells to really be here in these spaces. I mean, I'm so blessed to be here, but there's so many others that can't be here, that can really speak to so much more that I probably can't even speak to. And I want to kind of really push them to be here as well, I'd say. So pushing on the youth, pushing them to continuously push to be better. Organization is definitely another big key step. And I think hope as well. I think in a lot of ways that can be lost when you're maybe talking to certain people that are older than you. Maybe they've seen a lot or they've been through a lot and they don't really see that hope. But I think to continue pushing for hope is basically giving your services to your community. I think that can bring hope in a sense. Like, let's say if you're losing hope or if you're losing whatever you're going through, one thing I always think about is going back to my community, being a service to my communities. And I think that is the first step to hope, is relying back on your communities and pushing that forward, as well as organization and, you know, pushing on the youth. So that's kind of my answer, I guess.
Love it. Thank you so much. I want to come to you, Attorney Leslie, and I want to sit here for a moment in what I believe is starting to take shape on the stage, which is the role of each community member, right? Like, we all have a role to play. Some of us are utility players. You're supposed to be in DC right now, but you felt called to stay home in Minnesota. You served as an NAACP president. I don't know how many organizations you got now, but you connected us to multiple businesses today that needed support. When we talked about mutual aid, you said you knew some people that could help with mutual, like at every turn, there was a dot you were connecting. And I want to know, what is the conviction that drives you to do that? And how do people who are sitting at home watching this on the live stream tap into that conviction? Even if they're not dot connectors, maybe they are one that needs to be in service in a particular way. But what is that conviction that you tap into when it feels like hope is gone, when it feels like fear and terror is reigning? How do you tap into that?
Such a good question. Grace and peace, everyone. So first, I would say, you know, my mom tells me sometimes, like, Leslie, you're so fearless. I wish I was so fearless like you. And I have to remind her that I'm not fearless. There are a lot of times I'm afraid. And as a believer, in the Bible constantly it says, be not afraid, be of good courage, right? Because God knows that we are going to be afraid. I don't think, amen? I don't think that David wasn't afraid when he went up against Goliath. It's just that he had more faith than he had fear, right? And so for me, you know, I really believe that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. I believe that everything that we're seeing right now is a parallel to places that we've already been before, right? When we look at what ICE is doing right now, I think a lot about the Fugitive Slave Act, right, of 1850, and how we have to separate law and ethics, right? Just because something is legal does not mean that it is ethically and morally correct, right? And that is where civil disobedience has to rise and where we have to come to stand in our greatness. I think about drapetomania and when they tried to tell Black people we were crazy for wanting our freedom, right? I have crazy faith, Angela, right? I have crazy faith to believe that we were meant to be free, that this is not the world that God intended for us, right? This is what humans have made it to be. And in 2020, I said, Black Minnesota, we are done dying. And white Minnesota, you are done hiding. Your white Wakanda has been discovered, and it's time for Black people's humanity to be recognized, right? And so I didn't know what I was saying in 2020, though, right? That was God. That was God. It wasn't me. But as we fast forward, and here we are in 2026, and white people are being killed in broad daylight. This is something I never thought I would really see in Minnesota, right? And I'm seeing the parallels with Renee sitting in her car like Philando was sitting in his car. When I see Alex laying on the ground and being murdered, like we saw Jamar Clark laying on the ground and being murdered, right? And they didn't hear us, Angela. They didn't feel us, right? And I told people, the Black community, we've been warning, we've been prophesying, right? Telling them what will happen if something doesn't change. And sadly, we're here, but I believe that God has plans to prosper us and not harm us. I believe that what the enemy meant for bad, God meant for good. And so I believe that we are really we're at a crossroad, Brother Resma, right? And a lot of the time we talk about history repeating itself as if it's inevitable, but I think it repeats itself because we repeat ourselves, right? And so I'm determined not to repeat the sins of our past. And I was born in 1992. This is my Jesus year. I'm 33, amen? And, you know, I was born right around the time where there was uprising in LA. And then I ended up leading in 2020, and then here we are right here in 2026. That doesn't feel like a coincidence to me, right? I believe that we were destined to fight this fight. I believe that we were born for such a time as this, and I wouldn't trade places with Harriet Tubman. I'm not trying to run from Delaware to Maryland, right? And so because this is our run, though, this is our fight, right? They say it's not just not a race. It's not, shout out to Nipsey Hussle, just a marathon, but it's a relay. Right? And so we're passing the baton to each other. And me and my good sis Tish Jones of True Art Speaks have been having a lot of conversation around our narrative and how we can capture and reclaim our story. And that's why I say don't complain, activate. Right? Because we all can't do everything, but we all can do something, Angela. And so my conviction comes from knowing that I owe something to future generations, I owe something to our ancestors, and I'm determined to be who God meant for me to be.
Love it. Well, we have a phenomenal panel full of licensed and unlicensed preachers, and Derrick is going to close us out because both of my co-hosts are texting me as if Bakari didn't start it by going over his time, but there's that. Derrick, look at Bakari coming. He's giving me, you got a Sandman room? If not, go back. Reclaiming my time for the president. Derrick, I want you to talk to us about, you mobilize hundreds of thousands of people, NAACP chapters mobilize hundreds of thousands of people all over this country. And there comes a time where, Leslie, we get called back home, right? Can you please talk to us about the importance of standing 10 toes down with membership organizations, especially when there might be a vote in the Senate on whether or not these Nazis, these January 6ers, these terrorists now in ICE masks are gonna get funded or not. You have a whole legislative arm. It's time for us to stand side by side with our civil rights org. So can you please talk about the importance of that?
So thank you, and I appreciate Leslie. I remember when we first met, branch president, and the crazy thing was you was in law school and doing the same time, and I said, have you lost your mind? But receiving Leslie at the exact same time I had to deal with the 80-year-old deacon who was honorary as hell but committed like nobody's business. And appreciating the middle-aged sister who was trying to get the kids through high school while I'm talking to the brother who's an executive. We are not a monolith, we are a collective of Africans and Americans, and we gotta respect how we show up at every step. The problem with leadership of institutions like the NAACP, too many people sit in this seat and they make it about them. And it's egocentric, and as a result of that, we lose traction because they're trying to get to the news camera. What's gonna happen, what must happen by Saturday, there will be a budget bill adopted or a continuing resolution. In there is a line item of giving ICE more money. We need to mobilize folks, that's the QR code there, to call folks. Senator Klobuchar want to be a governor. She need to be here, clear from you all here. Not only do you vote against this bill, if that line item is in there, you bring 5 friends along with you from the Senate. Because 2 times now, we have been betrayed by Democrats who relied on black votes to get in office. And we must approach this understanding that political parties are nothing but vehicles for agendas, and we have to have a clear black agenda, and we always have had a clear black agenda. Far too many of us fall prey to the partisan conversation. Who cares if our folks still are not getting the food that's needed? So as we look at what's happening here, one of the things we can do is mobilize, as we're doing across the country, to put the pressure on senators to not vote for this bill if the ICE funding is in there. But if it passed, that doesn't stop stop the process because, as Bob Moses said, do civil rights movement, every episode is just a different theater in the fight on our journey to freedom. And we will get there. Why? Because we are a people who fight, we persevere, and we will get self-determination.
Absolutely. Y'all give it up for this amazing panel. We're so grateful to each of you. And speaking of elected officials who are accountable to the people, who are regularly representing what we need done, ensuring that our voices are heard and that there's an advocate in one of the highest offices in Minnesota, please join me in welcoming your Attorney General, Keith Ellison. He's got a receiving line, y'all. He's coming. Attorney General Keith Ellison, ladies and gentlemen. He said, I'm channeling Angela Davis. That's who I was named after. I yield the floor to the Attorney General. There you go.
Thank you, Angela. Hey, thank you guys for being out here tonight. I can't think of a more important place for you to be. Our country and our state and our city in this very moment has been the site of the largest single escalation of ICE agents, of immigration officials in the history of the United States. Ordinarily, ICE has about 100 people for the five-state area. Now, they have 4,000 ICE agents for just the state of Minnesota, which is a 4,900% increase. I don't have to tell you what's been happening. You live here, you've been seeing it, you've been experiencing it yourself. But this blanket of attack is certainly not normal, not justified, and is not legal. So what we have done about Operation Metro Surge, first of all, is we filed a lawsuit, which was heard yesterday. And what we argue was very simple. That if the federal government cannot bully and take over Minnesota and pass laws to make us do what the federal government wants, if they can't do it with an executive order or with a piece of legislation, they certainly can't do it with 4,000 armed, masked men. If they couldn't pass a law that said all Minnesota law enforcement is now an ICE agent, which they could not do, they certainly can't say, oh, you don't want to do it our way? We're going to send people with guns in large numbers to your state to intimidate and even kill people. At the end of the day, I believe we are going to prevail because we're right and what we're doing is just. And I'm telling you that we're not here to back down. And I will also tell you this. There is no legal barrier to a state prosecutor charging a federal agent. You understand? There's no legal barrier. I've been a lawyer for 36 years. I'm here to tell you that law and morality are not the same thing, that unjust things happen in the name of the law, and you know, but what I'm telling you is that it is not a fact that the federal agents can commit crimes in this state and never have to worry about accountability. You heard the Vice President of the United States tell you, absolute immunity. I don't know if he's lying or if he just doesn't know the law, but he's absolutely wrong. You could pick lying or ignorant, but he's wrong. Either way. You can pick either one, but it is not the case. And the real challenge, and I'm just going to be very clear with you guys, is the pragmatic reality of completing an investigation and then getting a case to a grand jury or getting enough probable cause to charge. Now, there's a lot of cases that are hard to bring because you do have evidentiary barriers. In this situation, there's so much video evidence. There is so much video evidence. And look, so the reality of the situation is, I'm not going to stand up here and say, I'm charging that dude with this. And I'm going to tell you why. Because that would be improper. Prosecutors shouldn't do that. You all will remember when George Floyd was murdered, first we got the evidence together, then we charged all 4 of them with murder. I'm just using that as an example to let you know that nobody here should feel that these people are just going to skate on this. Okay? You shouldn't feel that way. Now, when on the first time when they killed Renee Good, local police went and said we need to process the crime scene, find evidence, put things down, you know, the little cards and put the numbers down and make sure that we process the scene. And the federal agent said, no, you're not going to be allowed to do that, and we're going to take the casings, we're going to take the car, and we're going to take the gun. So then it was like, okay, that's different. And then they shot a man in North Minneapolis who survived, only right over there. Some of y'all might have been, who was there that night in North Minneapolis when the chemical irritant was in the air like smoke everywhere? Good to see you there, LaTanya. And then they said, no, you're not going to process that scene. So now on this one, we hear about Peggy getting shot. We went to court and got a court order and got a judge to rule that the evidence may not be destroyed, may not be tampered with, and we have to have access with it. And the judge issued the order Saturday night. We were back in court yesterday arguing it, and the court is not ruled yet, but we are confident that they're not going to be able to mess around with this evidence. So what I'm just telling you that whether it's a civil action that we've taken or whether it's the criminal cases, we are going to do everything we can to make sure there's truth and accountability here. Now, let me just tell you this. This situation, this oppression that Minnesota is under right now, will not be solved in a courtroom. It just won't be. Like, so after the Floyd case, did police brutality stop? No. That's why at the time I said, this is not justice, but it is accountability. The real justice and the real freedom and the real true democracy will be because you go out in the street and demonstrate and say no to this oppression. It is the people in the street, in the hearts and the minds of the people, marching in 9 below weather, standing up and saying, no, we're not going to let you roll over us this way, which is going to win the day. Together with elections, together with the artists, together with all of these things that we collect to try to create a just society. And it's not overnight. And I cannot guarantee you perfect safety as you fight for justice, any more than people could guarantee Martin Luther King, oh, nobody's ever gonna hurt you if you stand up for justice. Or nobody's ever gonna hurt you, nobody's ever gonna harm you if you protest. Jimmy Lee Jackson, we all know what happened. There's no guarantee of perfect safety when an oppressor feels threatened that you're trying to be free yourself. So at the end of the day, friends, I am asking you to protest. I'm asking you to protest peacefully and safely, but I would rather you be out there facing those bad guys, and that is exactly what they are, than sitting at home worrying about your own comfort and safety, safely not doing anything. We need we need everybody to do whatever they can do. And some people, look, they got bad knees, they've got disabilities, they can't be out there protesting. Well, maybe you can make calls and get people to the election that's coming up. Maybe you can do mutual aid for people who are shut up in their homes and can't even go to work because they're scared the ICE agent is going to stop them. But at the end of the day, all of us have to do something in this movement that we're in. And you being here tonight is doing something. It's doing something important. Because let me tell you, presence is power, friends. Witness is power. And let me tell you, the bad ones out there who are trying to press all of us, they know very well that you're having a meeting here tonight at the Capri. You think they don't know? If they were spying on you in the 60s, you think they're not spying on you in the 2020s? Of course they are. But screw them. We're not scared of them. And I don't care if Miss Christy Nome knows that I'm here working with you guys. And you should not, and if you're scared that she's gonna know about you being here, you're in the wrong place. This movement, we are guaranteed success because we are faithful. We are guaranteed success because we are faithful and we won't quit and we won't ever give up. Now, a last word that I wanna say to you, and I don't know if Angela wants me to answer any questions or not, but there is one word I wanna say to you before I wrap. I wanna urge you and talk to you about the fundamental importance of human solidarity in this moment. Because so often we're oppressed based on our identity. And as African Americans, you and I know 246 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, and disparities in race every single year after that. There's never been a moment where Black life in America has been celebrated in official channels. The one time somebody Black becomes president, it scares this country so bad that it brings on Donald Trump. So you and I both know the deal here. But what I'm saying to you is, as a child of African descent, as a Black man in America who can trace my roots in America since 1742, I can. These folks can't tell me I'm not from here. And no Black person in this room whose ancestors came here in slavery can be told you're not from here. But did you know that you were not a citizen up until the 14th Amendment? Did you know that? Did you know that the Supreme Court Justice of the United States, the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, said Black people who were born, lived their whole lives, and died in this country for 7 generations up until about 1850s were not citizens. So this thing about citizen has always been racially informed. Did you know that the first statutes on immigration to this country said only free white people could come here? It wasn't until 1965 that Asian, Latin American, and African people could immigrate to the United States. Immigration was a civil rights bill just like the Voting Rights Act was. And so I'm gonna-
They see me out here like a Sandman.
He just said, mic drop. Okay, y'all give it up again for Attorney General Keith Ellison. He walked all the way out. We love him. We're so grateful for his passion, for his commitment, for being here with us this evening, again, on such short notice. Thank you so much, Attorney General Keith Ellison. I'm bringing out my co-host, Andrew Gillum, Bakari Sellers. We have a quick panel with some clergy folk who are doing tremendous work in this space. As you all know, there was a big organizing effort with clergy at the airport just last week. It is important that folks are raising their voices, because we know there's a whole other one that has a whole church, but he's also working with ICE, but we'll talk about that another time. Please welcome to the stage Reverend Dr. Karen McKinney, Professor and Community Liaison at Bethel University, Minister Janae Amari Bates Amari, I believe, Co-Executive Director of Faith in Minnesota and Isaiah, and our good sister, Wintana Melakine, Executive Director of Groundwork Action. Co-host, you coming back out? We're gonna ask some quick questions, and I know we're getting the calls to action. So the hour is late and we gotta work. I don't know where Wintana is, but she will join us soon, hopefully. All right, well, first of all, ladies, can you talk about the importance of motivating and moving clergy to act in a time like this? I think about the letter from the Birmingham jail and what Dr. King was challenging us with. Come on, Andrew. Challenging us with. And it feels like this moment is yet again a choice between white nationalist Christianity and Black liberation theology, and then somewhere in between everybody else. Wintana, everybody give it up for Wintana. We introduced Wintana Melakine, yes. But I want you to weigh in on that, Janae, and then I'll yield to you all.
I mean, absolutely. The reality is that we are going to constantly recreate history. And we get to be deciders on if we're going to be history makers in the midst of it. And so I would say it is not just about, frankly, agitating the church, but it is about agitating America that proclaims and professes to be the church. And so when you are living in a place in a land that weaponizes my Jesus and my Bible, I find it incredibly important that people who say that they know God, say that they know Christ, actually live that out and call other folks into it. And so the action that we took on Friday, on the Day of Truth and Freedom, even the fact that I think it's important to say, even the fact that that day came into being was because of a bunch of people of faith and union leaders and community members who said that we are going to take ourselves seriously enough to build the kind of power to orchestrate the kind of organizing necessary to have something like that. Because the reality is people can call for an economic blackout or a general strike and like say that thing, but then you gotta look back to what happened in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955 when folks in a church said, we're gonna have the Montgomery bus boycott. It was not just, oh, let's do this thing and we're gonna say it and it'll happen. They put in the ground game to have 381 days of people being able to get to work, to be able to get their kids, to be able to go to groceries and not take the bus. And so amen. And so I do think that people of faith have to make sure that we are truly taking ourselves seriously enough to strategize. What does it mean to do something today? What is it going to mean for us tomorrow? What is it going to look like for our people the day after that? And actually put in the real grit and organizing that's required to make that kind of thing come to be.
I had a shirt that said, Jesus is not just a Sunday thing. Because a lot of times we don't ascribe to the notion that they teach us in the book of James that says that faith without works is dead. Because sometimes we become a very praying people. Our knees get sore. We put holes in the carpet and forget that we have to put our shoulder to the wheel on Monday to go out and get out the ditch. My question is about the disconnect that the church has perceived with this new generation that's coming up and how we as believers of whatever, can bridge that gap because we need them in our doors. The church used to be, Andrew and I, we were having this discussion, and Angela as well, last week on the show, but we all agree that the church used to be and I stress used to be the epicenter of change. That's where we had our organizational meetings. That's where we had our precinct meetings. That's where we fed the hungry in our communities. I mean, this event in 1965 would have been in somebody Baptist church in Minneapolis. Doors open, buses going to get folk, bringing them here, church moms. I mean, so how do we get back to that or evolve to the next iteration of that while also opening our arms to a generation that feels as if the church is not their home anymore? And for me, that's almost devastating.
Reverend McKinney?
That's a hard one. See, and maybe it's because I'm older, and that disconnect, I see it's there. I have 94 nieces and nephews.
94?
94 nieces and nephews and grandnieces and great-grands. And so when I started doing this, I started calling up my nieces and nephews and saying, come with me. You have to care. You don't have a choice. And it's like, oh, that's Aunt Karen, Reverend Aunt Karen. But some of them listen. So I think there's a disconnect, but there's also, they see what's going on and they care. And so when I said, come to this training, 4 of them showed up and came to the training. And it's like, you have to be out there with me. So I think they're seeing, and I'm not sure I know there's a disconnect, but in my church, we have a rebirth of young people. Because I remember the days when, I'm standing and I'm shaking hands and standing by the door, and there's not too many young people. But then I counted 7 babies. I said, people with 7 babies walk by, and it's like, we're getting people. And so people are hungry for it. And in my church, which is Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, we are unashamedly Black. Yes. And we're proud to be a black church and own that, even if all of our members are not. And so we want that black history. We profess that, we say that, we are proud of that, and we call forth people to be active and not sit back. And so, I was designated in my church to be, when we started this Black Core leadership team, we're going to be one of these churches that is involved in Isaiah and Faith in Minnesota. The pastor said, you take the lead on that. So I took the lead on that. And I was with those people who got arrested on Friday because I'm taking the lead on that, and that's the expectation. And there's all kinds of people from my churches and all the other churches that they put in and they say yes. And I left a meeting where people were saying, we're going to caucus. And are you committed to caucusing? And are you committed to bringing 10 more people with you to caucus on February 3rd? Yeah. And people were saying, yes, I'm committed to this for the long run, and I'm gonna ask my people. So we're still doing it.
Yeah, I love that. Give her a round of applause for that. And my last comment on this is that I am absolutely unapologetic about the onus that I put on the black church. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is because I feel like as a community, and this may be right or wrong, but I'll probably die with this, we don't survive, but we thrive if our church is the foundation of our community, not just our faith.
Yeah. I would agree with you.
Speaking of the foundation of our community, sitting next to someone who created the Groundwork Institute. And I want to just take a moment here because without Intana, protests and general strikes and all of that, the rally last week would not have happened last Friday. And so let's please give it up for Intana and all the work she's doing. And I also just want to acknowledge the human cost of the work. She is battling to make sure that her loved ones are safe in the midst of putting her body on the line for all of us. And so I want you for a moment to talk about the fact, I'm acknowledging you give, all of you, to this community. I want to know, and this is probably gonna be very hard because you're a black woman in America, but I wanna know what this room can give back to you.
First, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I also want to say the only reason I was a part of the march and the rally last week is because Janae propositioned me to show up and take that role. Janae was the person that really was the foundation of it and called me into her team. They actually just voted me in on Monday as an official member. And so I just want to acknowledge all the work she did. So thank you. So as Angela shared, I am an Eritrean American. I'm a US citizen, but I also am struggling with immigration issues across my family. I mean, just yesterday when coordinating with Angela around this, I had a family member picked up and now they're in New Mexico and we're trying to figure out what to do about it. Lately in Minnesota, most folks have been getting sent to Texas and now we got folks going to a new state. As y'all know, about 3,000 folks have been picked up over the last couple weeks. They have been sent all over the country. I have family members who are US citizens. I've had family members with green cards. I have folks with more complex statuses who have been picked up by ICE. There is no strategy, no theory. They are just picking up our community members and making them disappear. And at the same time, the other part of this battle is that I'm an executive director of not one, but two institutions, Groundwork Institute and Groundwork Action, where I gotta get up every day and do the political organizing and do the development and the training and all that. At the same time, having to figure out what ally can I send to Whipple to pick up my cousin because I can't go back there again after, being there just a couple weeks before that, picking a different family member. And so my ask for everyone in this community is to continue with the demands, ICE out of Minnesota. Right. Absolutely. I need you to contact your member of Congress and make those demands, your state rep, your city council member, every single level of government. The other thing I'll add is that last Friday during the march, I sat at my computer and I deleted my Netflix, I deleted every Postmates, all the little services I had, I canceled them. The only place I've been shopping at is my co-op. Like folks that I know have already taken a political position to say we stand with immigrants, we don't stand with ICE. And I have just been unapologetic about rethinking about the way I spend money, the way I move. And I encourage everybody else in this room to do that. And I just think one other thing I gotta name that I think can't be forgotten about this moment is that I am very clear that the only reason I have the right to be in the United States is the work of Black Americans. It is very clear that after passing the Civil Rights Act and after the passing the Voting Rights Act, the Immigration Act was passed after that, the work of Martin Luther King to open the door and all the others to open the door to allow immigrants into the United States. And so I very clearly see after all the organizing I did for Jamar Clark and Philando Castile, I have very overwhelmingly seen the Black American community step up in this moment and stand in solidarity. And I'd be remiss if I didn't name that. And so I don't know what more to ask for. I have seen folks really step up in this moment. And I just encourage folks to continue to do it with their political power, their message, and their money.
So I guess before we do our call to actions, if there are any final, I'm the person who's crying on the airplane. I have my hoodie on, and they be like, why is he tearing up? Because it's a Marvin Sapp playing in my ear, so I'm that emotional guy who's crying. If there any parting words for this audience as we begin to bring this to a close, of faith, the strength that we have, what we need to do to persevere to get through this dark time. You can preach a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a micro sermon.
Like Episcopalian. I'm
time.
Episcopalian, not that Baptist stuff, y'all be.
I guess I would say God chooses no hands but our hands. God uses no hands but our hands and feet. And so we have to choose. We have to choose to let God use our hands and feet. And we have to choose it every day. It's not a one-time choice. You're not done, and tomorrow I get to just lay in. No. We have to choose it every day, and it matters for the generations that come behind us. What kind of kids? What are our kids going to have? If we keep going backwards, so we have to pick, and we can't let go. I guess that's what I'm going to say.
Amen.
I would just have us all lean into the story of the Good Samaritan. The notion that anytime there is someone who is hurting, someone who is beaten, someone who is oppressed, someone who is downtrodden for whatever reason, we are called to do and to act. And there were folks who walked past that body and thought, I can't do anything about that, because if I do, what happens to me? And the one who decided to stop said, well, if I keep going, what happens to them? And I think there is a collective, what happens to us if we don't act? And so that is the call. And for the Minnesotans, I can't end this without saying, for the Minnesotans who are in the room, especially Black Minnesotans, February 3rd is Caucus Day. Okay? We could talk all day in little settings like this, but it is so incredibly important that we use our voice and have an outsized say about what happens in our state and in our country, and you get the opportunity to do that when you caucus and when we caucus together in unity. Amen? Amen. So y'all join me at a training on Monday. Okay, Monday at 6:30 at Greater Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. We're going to get trained to caucus together with the actual strategy. We ain't just going to show up willy-nilly. We're going to come through and actually win an agenda. Okay.
I go to a Catholic church, so I can't sermon like that. It's not in me. I will try my best. Amen.
We pass around the wine in a little bit.
We do that. We do the little bread. Yes.
Better watch that backwash.
Okay, y'all laughed a little too hard at my people. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about what happened about an hour before I walked in this room. Congresswoman Omar at her town hall was standing there talking about how we need to hold the federal government accountable, and a man walked up to her with a substance and sprayed her in the face. And, I have to also talk about how Congresswoman Orr responded. She swung back. She literally swung back. She approached him and then cleaned herself up and then continued the forum, continued the conversation. She put out a statement and said, we have to keep going, we have to keep fighting. And this is very difficult. This is absolutely horrific, but also we have to keep going. We have to keep fighting. We can't sit here and wallow, feel the pain, feel the trauma, experience it, process it, go to your place of faith, do what you need to do. But also after that, we have to, leave these spaces and go back to organizing, and that there are folks with less access and privilege and all the things who are sitting in detention centers that are dependent on us to leave this room and stand up for them because they can't stand up for themselves. So no matter what we're experiencing, it's a little bit harder to go to the gas station. It's a little bit harder to get around. You got to carry your passport 100%. But if you have the privilege to stand up for someone who literally can't leave their house, I beg you to do it. I beg you to take that action. And then being an electoral girly, as Janae said, you have to caucus. It is if you have the ability to. For some folks, it's not safe. I get it. But if you have the ability, caucus on February 3rd. One thing that you could do at caucuses that people often forget is you could do resolutions. So there's statements where you say, I believe that we need ICE out of MN, or I believe in a higher minimum wage. You can write statements like that and bring them there and get them added to your party's platform. You can join one of the committees. So there are so many opportunities for you to take a position and let it be known where you stand and really defend the folks next to you that just don't have the capacity to defend themselves. So I just ask you to, be a true neighbor and stand up for whoever, can't stand.
Absolutely. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Let's give it up again for Reverend Dr. Karen McKinney, Minister Janae Bates, Winter, Melakine. We're so grateful for you all. Thank you so much. Okay, y'all, we're going to get to our calls to action. We're wrapping the show. What you got?
Well, I'll just say I love that because we talked about this on the show, but how the right wing is really bastardized evangelicals, right? Every time you hear evangelicals, the evangelical community got behind Trump XYZ. I think, what religious people are they talking to? They're not talking to these women that we just heard from. That's the true meaning and I think spirit of the Word of God and the Spirit of God. The other thing that comes to for CTA, and I think it was said here on this stage around, I think exercising the muscle of repetition, the fact that we can't just do it one time. We reference the Montgomery bus boycott, but we oftentimes don't reference the fact that after the first day of the boycott, the black community went back to the church that night and decided and voted as a community whether they would go back and continue the boycott the next day. And then at the end of that day, they showed back up at the Baptist church and they voted again whether they were going to continue the bus boycott the next day. They thought that the bus boycott was going to be one night, one day, and then 2 days, and then a week. And that week lasted over a year. They exercised the muscle of coming back and coming back and coming back. And I don't think this is a lesson that you all need here in Minnesota. In fact, I think this is the lesson you all are teaching the rest of the country.
Y'all gonna have to cut that song because we don't have it licensed. I was trying to text it nicely. Don't do that in the middle of a CTA. It'll get cut. So if you want to play our music while we're talking, that's fine, but not anything that's not licensed.
So to conclude is simply to say thank you for teaching us the lesson and helping us exercise the muscle, the discipline of coming back again, again, again. Delay is not denial. Trump may think they are winning right now, but delay is not denial in my faith tradition. Accountability will come, and we will win this thing in the end. God bless y'all, and thank you for being here.
So mine is very easy. I know that we are on this journey together and we are getting extremely weary. It seems very cyclical that every 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, it feels as if we're being pulled down, we're being put upon, we're being oppressed, we're being suppressed. And it feels as if sometimes the faith and the prayers simply aren't working. It feels like the price that we're paying for change with every body and all the blood that's flowing through the street is just too high. We're tired of going to memorial services. We're tired of going to funerals. We're tired of seeing people gunned down on our streets with our own eyes. We're tired of seeing people drug out of their homes. We're tired of seeing black women die in hospital lobbies because they refuse to give them care. We're tired of seeing our farmers suffer. We're tired of seeing people just suffer because of who they love or who they pray to or the color of their skin. We're just tired. And I guess my call to action is we all stand before you today just a little bit more tired today than we were yesterday. But it's incumbent upon us to dig deep, like Andrew said. It's incumbent upon us to rely on that faith, because when we were brought to this country, we were stripped of everything we had but our faith. Rely on that rock, rely on that faith, and make sure when you go out, you work extremely hard to make tomorrow better than yesterday. My dream is for Stady and Stokely to have a better America than the one that I inherited. And my fear is that I'm running behind on that mission. So I'm encouraging all of you to join me in that journey, just to make sure that all these little black and brown boys and girls can grow up and say that this America is made in my image. This America is something I can be proud of. This America actually gave us a check that we can cash and no longer has insufficient funds written on it. So we're here with you all. I'm asking for your prayers, I'm asking for your work, and I'm asking for you to rely on that faith, because we all need that at this time.
Thank you, B. So my call to action is all thank yous to y'all. We love y'all so much. Thank you for welcoming us with open arms. I want to give a shout out again to ActBlue for their Minnesota Freedom Fund setup. We pray that you all at home will donate to that. For all of you in this room, if you have neighbors who need groceries, we have so many groceries for y'all to take. Hygiene kits, please make sure you go through Paradise Hall to do that. Say it again. I'm directionally challenged, so I believe him. I also want to give a special shout out to Capri Theater. Y'all, please give it up for them. They turned this around so quickly. If you don't already, please make sure you're donating to support the mission of this critical work. This created a safe space for all of us to express ourselves and to know that we would not be terrorized by the ICE people. Also, I want to shout out Attorney Leslie Redmond, who I shouted out earlier, Wintana Melakine again, Ellie, I'm sorry, not Ellie, I'm used to our Ellie, Eli, Danielle, Lauren of Minnesota Freedom Fund, all of them, DeWanna Thompson, who's gonna be joining us just in a moment to lift up the small businesses that received the micro grants, El Burrito Mercado, Colonial Market and Restaurant, Westside Boosters, Turn Signal, and Jazz, and all of our community partners, and all of you, please give it up for yourselves. DeWanna Thompson, where are you? Come announce these businesses, sister. State of the people. Represent the state of the people. Come on, DT.
Hey, everybody. I know the night has been long, but it's been good, right? It's been soul enriching. And so Angela loves to have me come do this part only because I have been living my life off of a very simple African proverb for a while. And it says that there are some people who are so hungry that God can only appear to them in the form of bread. So I've been asking myself, and I'm asking you tonight, what is your bread? What do you have to give? Tonight, we do have groceries for over 200 and something families. We brought the bread with us. But there are some businesses who've been thinking about how they can stand with community during this time. And that does not come with, that's not easy for them. They probably don't even have the resources to do it. And this won't change everything, but it is a start to recognize that we need each other. So to these 7 businesses, we see you, we love you, please stand up when you are called. Soul Bowl, Brittany Class. I can't see nothing, but so, is that better? Okay. Hill, MPLS, Sierra Carter. Sammy's Avenue Eatery, Michael McDowell. I know that KB Brown had to leave, but Wookpack Promotions, y'all give it up for Wookpack Promotions. Zara Cafe, Mr. Khalif, or Mrs. Khalif. Albee Kitchen, Buri Buri, and Right Spot Wellness. Y'all give it up for Dr. Khalil and Felicia. I will meet you at the back to make sure that you get your micro grants tonight, right? And so thank you so much for everybody who stayed with us tonight. Again, we want, if you don't need the resources yourself, but you know a family, please come back and get them. We are going to also donate whatever is left to local organizations who are doing the food giveaways daily. So it will not go to waste. And thank you so much for your support tonight.
Oh, that's not on. Okay, now to close us out, Thomasina Petrus, one of your very own, is going to join us again to take us home. As we end Native Land Pod, we will tell y'all what we always say. Welcome home, y'all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm really proud to debut this song. We just launched it, called Don't Buy the Lie. Kashimana Ahua and myself wrote it for just this moment. We're honored to be able to sing it tonight. If you want to see the video, videographer Mujasi did the video for us. It's available on thomasinasmusic.square and YouTube. So this is for the love of our community and for you. Thank you for being here tonight and letting us use our voices this way. Got my head in my hands. Oh, you got me thinking. Sometimes I don't understand why you want me drinking. I got my head in my hands. Oh, you got me fussing. 'Cause you done up to my plans. Now you got me cussing. Why you want me naked? Why you want me bruised? Why you want me frightened? Hopeless and confused. Don't buy the lie. It's gonna cost you too. 'Cause when they hurt me, yeah, they hurt you. We're all connected. Can't you see? None of us are free till all of us are free. You don't care who I am. You don't wanna know me. You just wanna cause harm. Told the world to show me. You ignore what is true. Rather be blind and see me. But the shame is on you. 'Cause you could never own what's always been free. So afraid to face it. So afraid of truth. Mothers nursing hatred. What's this world coming to? Don't buy the lie. It's gonna cost you too. 'Cause when they hurt me, yeah, they hurt you. We're all connected. Can't you see? None of us are free. No, no. Till all of us are free. I got my heart in my hands, dreaming of what could be. A world with no violence, no one's going hungry. No, no, no one's in an addiction. No one's dying young. No. Every life is sacred. More sacred than your gun. Don't buy the lie. It's gonna cost you too. 'Cause when they hurt me, yeah, they hurt you. We're all connected. Can't you see? None of us are free. No, till all of us are free. None of us are free. Till all of us are free. Can we say it together? Everybody. None of us are free. Till all of us are free. Thomasina Petrosevich.